Okay, so there's a few people here. Hello, Orgy. Hello, Por. What's up, guys? And welcome.
Hello.
If you don't mind, we'll hang around a bit and wait for the crowd to get a little bigger.
Okay, let's get. All right, so the comments are there. Oh, we have a comment. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Paul John.
How's it going?
Hi, Ivona.
Hi, Ivona. Yeah.
Ivona. There we go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool. All right.
So I guess we can start in a bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
5 minutes. And
5 minutes.
Well, am I supposed to be seeing these messages, or is that just you two?
No, yeah, for you too. So
yeah, that would be a good idea. Saves me reading all the questions out.
I don't want to take your job away.
No, that's right. Happy to be here. If anything, you're taking my job away from GarageFarm. Marco's angry with you about that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get an
eye on your evening. There we go.
That's all good.
Keep an eye on your comments.
Hey.
Okay, hold on. My wife's come in saying that she can't get on, and she's the most important person.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so let's wait for her. Hi, Mike.
She's on Facebook.
Hi, Mikhail.
Says join the live stream here, and she can't get on.
Given
that she made me make half my movie. Can I send it? Yeah. Can you guys email me a link or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be the same one, but
the same one that you sent me.
Yeah, but let's make sure and.
Right. I can send that link. That's fine.
Is there any way we can put?
Oh, here's another one, just in case.
Marco on the left and me on the right.
It looks that way to me, actually.
It's just interesting. Okay, fair enough. We'll be.
So yeah, I'm actually not like I'll be watching from this from the Be Live dashboard.
Okay.
To prevent yeah.
We'll be asking Dan your burning questions. There we go. I'm ready.
Should we start with a dad joke?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a good one.
Why did the man fall down the well?
Why?
Well, I don't know.
Because he could not see that well.
Oh no!
Both equally well played, though. So.
Right, here's one for you. Why did the Jedi cross the road?
I don't know.
Because he was forced.
Man, that's better than mine. Damn you.
Alright, what you got, Marco? Give us something.
I don't have any dad jokes. I'm not really. Honestly, I'm just trying to battle my nerves right now. So please,
We're distracting you. It's all good. You'll be safe.
Yeah, no, nothing
You're
comes
safe.
to mind at the moment.
Oh. Alright, Michael just quickly Googles it. Dad jokes. I know I'm a dad and I have a wife and kid, but where do I find dad jokes?
Where do I find jokes?
You pick them up over time.
Dad jokes. I know I'm a
hey,
dad.
Tomas. How's it going?
Where do I find dad jokes? Oh, that was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
I had the.
If you've got do you have Facebook open, Danny? Maybe do you have the broadcast open at the same time?
I do, yeah.
Facebook. I think we'll be fine. We'll be fine with just Be Live on. That way we can avoid any. We're talking about yeah.
A moment ago, I had just comments, so I'm going to go back to where I've just got the comments. Okay. That'll be easier.
Hi, L. I'm assuming yeah.
That'll be my wife.
Yeah.
So behave yourselves.
Hello, Mrs. Masterton.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Cool.
I think that's a good number of people. Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll go ahead.
All right. Introduce us, Marco.
Right. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us on this live stream. So tonight, tonight we'll be talking to Dan, who is a loving husband and father, a filmmaker, and a creative director. And so for Danny here is our talented writer, and he's written an article about Danny, and if you've seen it, then great. And if not, let's get Dan to introduce himself a bit for you guys. So go ahead, Dan.
This Dan or that Dan?
Oh,
I'm Danny.
Yeah.
You're Danny.
Yeah.
I'm Dan.
We'll establish.
All right. Okay.
Younger
let's get those rules sorted. Yeah.
So that goes for you guys too. Like in the comments, if you've got questions to Danny, it's Danny, and then you can.
I shall read them out to Dan for you. Your burning questions.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm a creative director at a company at the moment. I have a studio of about 12 people. We do a heck of a lot of work in the corporate world, so it's actually, like I said in my article, it's a lot more fun than it sounds, so the work is incredibly varied. In my past, I've been an illustrator for magazines, such as Skull Magazine in the US, 2000 AD, and a bunch of other comics. I then moved into CG animation, when computer animation first started, and I've always been fascinated by it, and then kind of moved into making short films, kind of as a way, because when I was younger, there wasn't really courses and that kind of stuff to go on because it was such a new thing. So by making short films, it kind of forces you to find ways to learn the software, and secondly improve yourself. So even though I'm I've got a full-time job, make films in my free time, just because the world of animation and technology is moving so fast. You're not really going to have time during your full-time job to say, look, I need to go on a training course for 3 days, which tends not to work, because unless you constantly are keep at it, you're not going to improve. So I make short films to kind of improve myself. I enjoy it. I love it. I love telling stories, and the end result is brilliant. And you get to meet people like GarageFarm.NET. So it's all good.
Oh, well, thank you. On behalf of all of us at GarageFarm.
Yeah. I've got a question from Bo here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which software do you use? Wow.
So my main software is Autodesk Maya. For the film, I've got some notes here just so I didn't forget, because I like to experiment a lot with technologies that are coming out. So originally, I've made I think about this is my 4th or 5th short film, I can't remember. In my free time, in my professional career, I make like a ton of short films, like one literally. Sometimes I make them like one every 2 weeks or one every couple of months, depending on the length. So originally Maya came with Mental Ray, which they pulled out and replaced with Arnold, which is a great renderer but really, really slow. So I switched to V-Ray for this particular movie, which is brilliant, I have to say, really, really fast. But I also wanted to learn how to use ZBrush, SpeedTree. What else did I use? So obviously I know how to use After Effects and Premiere. I've been knowing how to do that since like the beginning of time. Photoshop. I mean, you wouldn't even get a job nowadays without knowing Photoshop. Most of the Adobe stuff. Plugin wise, it's pretty much depending on. So the nice thing about using Maya as a software is that there are millions of people using it as well. So it's not just like commercially friendly, but you're always going to get a job knowing it. And nowadays, with the introduction of like Mesh, in the Mesh motion graphic stuff, it's kind of like helping the professionals move into the motion graphics department, whereas Cinema 4D kind of had that covered. Even though Cinema 4D again is a really commercially viable product, the Mesh stuff is really sort of bringing Maya to the motion graphics front. So it's taking it more away from broadcast and film, and sort of bringing it to commercial studios a lot more. Also, they've got a brilliant pricing model as well. So that, the renting, the fact that you can rent it for a month or whatever, then that's fantastic.
Huh.
Cool.
So Mike says, Michal says that's a big production pipeline. But I mean, it's understandably so, I'd say, because it's, I suppose, so you mentioned you did some ZBrush, and in the article we talked, Danny mentions you've also worked with some Substance Painter.
Yeah. Oh, I missed that one. Yeah, I couldn't get my list open. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. But
there we go.
I find it. So what do you use ZBrush for? I'm curious. Is it something that you that comes to the fore when you work primarily on organic structures, or?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I use the movie as a way to learn it. So I'll do whatever I can at it. And the previous episode of this, I didn't really get a chance to do it because I was going for the more cartoon film. But the film before that, Death and the Comedian.
Yeah.
It was early days. I mean, I think it was ZBrush 3, 4, something like that. I don't know. And I kind of did a little bit on the skull thing, but I really want to learn it, and I would love to be. You see all that kind of those people doing those digital sculptures, and I think it's just amazing. So I kind of want to do that because they kind of whip it out in an afternoon. You're thinking that's fantastic. What a great way to build up your portfolio, to learn it and just whip that out. But it's a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest with you.
No, yeah,
but,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I used it for initial kind of. Sketch, and just basically modeling some of the. I don't know. No one's probably seen the film, unless they've been to the film festivals. But there's some pirates and stuff in it. I say pirates; they're kind of pirates. They, I did all their skin texturing and that kind of stuff, and it gets that great. It gives you a sense of detail. So what I normally do is I'll start modeling. I'll model the whole thing in Maya, and then shift it over to ZBrush, and then do the detailed modeling, and then export those displacement maps back out. And I did a bit of texture work in there as well, until Substance Painter came out sort of halfway through the making of the movie. I'll be honest with you, it's taken me 3 years to make the movie. So Substance Painter came out, became this big thing, and the great thing about Substance Painter is that not only can you do the foreground objects, you can also it saves you so much time when you're doing background objects. So you might have a cup in the background. You can just model your cup. You can hit auto UV the thing, so you don't really need to worry about it, and just slap on some sort of texture and put a bit of grime and just break up the texture a little bit, and you're done. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm just dying for them to create a plugin which can send the textures from Substance Painter to Maya, and then life will be happy. Because honestly, it puts out about 6 textures which you have to plug into a V-Ray shader, and it's a bit of a killer. So when you've got 500 cups to do, my God,
wow,
it's hard work. I didn't have 500 cups, but you know what I mean. You've got on the pirate ship. There's a cloth, the barrel, a cannon, a chain, all this kind of stuff, and plus the characters have all got belts and buckles and all that kind of stuff on. So it was a painful couple of weeks.
So,
sorry, Marco.
Oh no, go ahead, Danny.
Boar has got another question for you, Dan.
Yep.
He said V-Rays are great, but what about free stuff like Blender? It also uses V-Ray and is for a start free.
Blender's great, absolutely great. I mean, Blender is basically this program that's free and can do everything that all the professional packages can do. The only problem is it's open source, so you don't get support on it. So what the problem is that if you're looking for a career in CGI or 3D animation, then you don't rely on Blender. In no way don't learn Blender if you're just making your own independent short films. But I wouldn't. There's no studio that I know, and my studio certainly doesn't use Blender on a professional level anyway. But honestly, it is a great piece of software.
Yeah. I use Blender myself, and I love it to death. But yeah, you're right. It's by no means an industry standard right now. So yeah, that's good advice, actually.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in
I
the
mean,
future,
it's one of those things that, I mean, if you say worked in my studio, and you said I use Blender, I'll be like, hooray, you can use it, because we're a small studio, so you know you can do it. It's not going to cost me any money, and you probably you'd be left alone to make your own film in it.
Right.
The thing is, though, if you're going to be collaborating with someone, I'm not going to start setting up an entire new pipeline to pull stuff out of Blender. And also, if you want to start your own company, then you're unlikely to find a million Blender animators. But if you're going to look for Maya or Max animators, then you'll probably be more, find more people that have learned that software.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking from like the day-to-day state of like our farm, I'd say that's exactly right. But you mentioned you had just been to the London Independent Film Festival, was it?
Yes, that's right.
How'd that go?
Oh, it was amazing.
And that, by the way, was for Eubipticus Claw's Adventures Galore episode 2. Episode
2, yes, which is the one where we all met, so it means a lot to me. But I did actually mention you in an interview, but I never saw the edit of the interview, so sorry. I tried to give you a bit of free sort of promotion there, but never mind. So we've had a bit of luck this year. We've been shortlisted for 2 film festivals. There was the Independent Film Festival, which was in Newcastle. Unfortunately, I got stuck in New York and couldn't make it. And then the second one was the London Independent Film Festival, and it was over a space of about a week. And it was the first time I'd seen Eubipticus Claw in a cinema, and it was just amazing. I mean, it really was so brilliant. And it's funny because film festivals have a tendency to be very kind of these very deep, emotive, kind of very serious issues. And I kind of stopped doing those movies a couple of films ago. I turned to, and since I had kids, I kind of did these really bouncy, lovely ones. So there was this kind of like really dark film about a guy whose family were lost in the war, and then there was another one about some chaps suffering from some sort of illness or whatever. And then Eubipticus Claw came on, which was like super bouncy, happy, lovely, everyone's crazy and all that kind of stuff, and really bright. And then it went back to another really, really dark kind of thing. So it was quite hilarious, just to this kind of juxtaposition of being stuck in between all these dark films. But yeah, everyone was laughing at the right places, and everyone was happy, and it was great. It was great. It was
awesome.
Good for that.
So Mike says, EV Blender will rule the earth. Wow. However, Maya is still it's still a proven, the proven production app. So true. Okay, but I wanted to, because I've seen the learnings of Dr. Loon and Death and the Comedian on YouTube.
Yeah.
And honestly, the style was really interesting to me, because it's I'm not sure if lyrical is the right word, but because the stories revolve around this poetic narrative, there's a lot of it is dark, I suppose, but there is a lot of like complexity to it that I really enjoy. And at the same time, Eubipticus Claw's Adventures Galore is a little lighter in tone, but as Danny put it, like in the article, he said something along the lines of
infectiously charismatic.
Yeah, and he doesn't. While most people, and I really like this line, you say, while most people look towards the end of the tunnel, he totally ignores it, which is really something that in itself is very profound and can kind of lead to a lot of questions about things, especially to me as an animated filmmaker myself. Like it does open up a lot of questions about being in the moment, and sort of finding appreciation in the things around you on a day-to-day basis, which is also something that in your earlier films I kind of was resonating as well. But I'm not really. I mean, this is something that's coming from my own interpretation. But I noticed that the learnings of Dr. Loon and Death of the Comedian, for example, all center around characters who are very immersed in and solitary in their work, and while these sort of metaphysical occurrences are happening around them, and somehow, so there's kind of this invitation as well to step out of that cave and explore these these phenomena that occur outside of what they're so deeply immersed in. So I don't know. Was that deliberate, or am I just reading too much into it?
No, I mean, no, you're kind of right. So going back to the learnings of Dr. Loon, that was in a kind of a period of time. So the learnings of Dr. Loon for me was to start off with. It was, I need to learn a piece of 3D software. So what better way to do it than make a movie? And I kind of had this story to tell about this guy called Dr. Loon who looked at love and didn't understand it at all. So spent his time over-analyzing love and creating these kind of like heart robot type things, whatever they were. And in the end, this girl turns up at his car factory, science lab, whatever it is, and she falls in love with him just for the fact that he's so intensely talking about love. And in the end, he's like, he sees the fact that she's falling in love with him, but doesn't understand what love is. So he's like, oh, I think I've seen it. So now, I think I know all about it now. So I must go and do some more experiments, and completely ignores the fact that he could have actually enjoyed love there anyway. So it's kind of a weird twist on the whole thing. They're all, Dr. Loon was supposed to be seriously detached. But yeah, it was quite an intense sort of, emotional thing to go through. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't deeply personal to me. It was a story I was telling, but it was quite heavy going. Especially for, I was learning how to write the story. I knew I wanted it to be quite. I wanted people to, at that kind of time in your life when your relationships are, splitting up, and your friends' relationships are splitting up, and you're seeing is there kind of those young relationships, and that's pretty much what love kind of feels like. You haven't got a bloody clue what's going on, but you think you do, and that kind of thing.
So true.
Not that you get any better as you get older, but
maybe a little bit. I'm hoping.
And then, so then I had in my mind, I had a kind of series to do of these films. So I had The Learnings of Dr. Loon, and then there was going to be The Pie Man and the Clockmaker. Now, The Pie Man and the Clockmaker that was based on the fact that the girl from Dr. Loon was driving the pie delivery van, that she was supposed to be working for this pie man who was friends with the clockmaker from Death and the Comedian, because Death and the Comedian is about a clockmaker who, ironically, spends his whole life, making time, only to find his time is running out.
Right.
And I quite like the idea that Death is not. He's not this kind of like evil, horrible person, but he's actually this quite empathetic, sympathetic person who's consistently seeing death, and it upsets him. So he doesn't like people dying. But then there's this comedian, and if you think about the humor of life, is that you put all this kind of effort into it, and in the end, you're just going to be dead. So there's kind of like the really hard side of death. Is the comedian? It's like, ha ha ha! You tried so hard, and look where it's got you. You're dead.
Yeah, like there's really intense like cynicism that's going on with that guy.
Yeah. And then after those two films, I was going to make The Pie Man and the Clockmaker, but I was just kind of like, I don't know if I can go through that kind of emotional emotional stuff, and also the stuff I was kind of doing at work as well had that kind of dark twist, and I was starting to get to translating corporate scripts into like something which people could actually listen to. So it was all a bit much. I just needed to do something light. And also, when you're doing films like that, the acting is very human, whereas in cartoons it's cartoony. I've never done cartoon animation before, but I think, if you want a little secret, that the next film, which will be rendered on GarageFarm.NET, and ready for the festivals next year, is not a happy jolly film. It's going back to the roots kind of thing. So that'll be exciting.
Well, I'm excited for that. You'll have to forgive me if I browse through the frames while it's up at the farm.
That's fine.
I've got another question for you, Dan, that I'm quite curious about myself.
Okay.
Mikhail said, a lot of movie production. What's the source of those inspirations? Real life stories?
Great question.
Just quickly, are you having resolution problems?
A little bit, just quite pixely.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but it's no worry.
Okay, I could try and move somewhere else in the house when the kids move, and then
But it seems that people can hear you properly, so that's
okay.
More.
Yeah.
Fine.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. So, what was the question? Are they personal to me?
What's the source of the inspirations? Real life stories.
Weirdly, so Dr. Loon, let me think. I was just kind of a person who was that age having relationships, and it felt kind of like a normal thing to write. Death and the Comedian, strange enough, was just something that came to me one night in a kind of, horrible. This is so funny that people die and they've done nothing. Actually, I saw my parents spent some time in Ireland, and there was a picture on the wall of these old Irish pictures, of death, like the skeleton kind of like was having there was death as a skeleton having a boxing match with a chap, and it was like underneath it was like how vain are all your triumphs past, for this set too shall be your last. And that was kind of like, oh yeah, you're right. That's kind of funny. So, but I like to split the idea of death. Sadly, my mother passed away about 7 years ago, and that kind of story of the death and the clockmaker kind of became really relevant. With watching my dad, who's still alive, obviously. He kind of had that same feeling. How difficult it is to live on without someone. Whether it's harder to actually lose somebody, or it's harder to live on without them. And then Ubibticus Claw, I was just like, I need to do the complete opposite of anything that's too dark and cryptic. So what better to have the ultimate kind of like happy chappy who's just always positive no matter what. But then you can't have a film about that because it's just ridiculous. So why not put in Nothing Man, who's going to balance things out?
It's like the yin yang.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Mikhail also confirmed for us that the audio is fine.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sorry about the picture. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my expensive Virgin Media broadband I pay for.
Oh, Virgin. Sky's not much better, so.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions, Marco?
I'm curious as to what Bor is talking about. He mentions shell shocked.
Oh yeah.
Is
that's my wife's animation. My
wife. Really?
Yeah. My wife, she's from South Africa. Caroline, her name is. She's absolutely lovely. She studied stop motion animation, and her university animation was a film called Shell Shocked, which is about a snail who tries to commit suicide by drinking salt. She has a snail with a broken heart who tries to commit suicide by drinking salt, and I think he gets trod on at the end. Poor chap.
Oh my god! Why am I laughing?
I know, it's really darker than my movies. My god. But my wife's actually an animator as well. She worked for Moshi Monster, the computer game, recently,
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, she was actually credited in the Moshi Monster movie. So I mean that was a few years ago now, but yeah, she's talented Flash and After Effects animator as well. So we kind of met over Finding Nemo.
Really? Tell us about that.
It's like we fell in love. Oh, I got a DVD. Yeah. Oh, you know too much. She's going to kill me when I get downstairs.
Yeah, but that's awesome though.
Yeah.
It must be so. Yeah, like I imagine you guys are both like pillars of support for each other when you embark on these personal projects.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I couldn't do without her feedback. I mean, I'm a massive person. You're never going to improve unless you let people see your work. I mean, you're just going to stagnate, as well as push yourself harder. Because if you don't try to do something, I mean, what on earth why did I think I could do a short film of kind of Hollywood production value? I don't know. I mean, I may not have reached that value, but that's what I tried to do. And if I hadn't have tried, I mean, like, and I'll come on to XGen in a minute. But you need someone to constantly say, well, that's not funny, that is funny, that is good, that's working, that's not working. And you become as either an animator, a story writer, even an artist, whatever texture stuff, you might go, oh, that'll do, and they're like, it won't do. You need to do better, and you need to have somebody to do that. But you also have to be tough-skinned enough to be able to take that and not take it personally. Because it's about the work, and as long as someone's saying to you, "I don't like," if someone says to you, "I don't like it," and you say, "Why not?" "Oh, I just don't like it." Then you can ignore that feedback. If they say to you, "I don't like it because your arcs are off, or your story should have a different beat, or the color is wrong, or something like that," because then that's good, and that's the best way to give and receive feedback.
Yeah, totally. And
this may make you blush. But Tomaz just said, "Now I see whose smile was the base of Ubiquitous's smile." That really flipped my tongue up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how difficult that smile is to animate? Honestly, it's one of those. In the first film, the teeth. So I rigged the teeth in the first film. So when the mouth closed, and I wish I'd actually spent more time up front, kind of. So I use I forgot what it's called now, a plugin called Studio or something into Maya, where you can set up you get your control curves and you can set up faces, and you just literally click on it, and it'll save that face. So as you go through, you can set up all these faces. So in the first film, the teeth were kind of they animate separately from the skin around the mouth. So as the mouth closes, the teeth are sticking out. So you have to animate those in. In this film, I thought I'd be really clever and smart. Just leave the teeth as it is, close the mouth, and then I could mask around the teeth as the mouth closes. And then so I did all these kind of like alpha channels. Oh my God, it was the worst mistake I ever made. Honestly, I was literally having to try and get that mask to follow the teeth properly. So I rendered his head, then I would select a curve around his mouth, extrude the curve out, make his whole face black, and then render the teeth behind the black face to use that as a mask. And it was just painful. So I would go back to the way I did in the first film any day. It was just such a mistake. It was such a mistake. It took so much time to fix the teeth.
Yeah,
really goes to show it's a learning curve.
Yeah, that's what I like to call it.
But it's, I mean, I'd say there really is no better way. It is in making like iterations of one film or a film after another, and then working doing things differently from what you did initially that make things more efficient. That's it. Like there's no digital tutors video there's no resource out there that's going to instantly make you. You might know everything conceptually, but actually, especially in the process of actually, there's so much that goes into making an animated like 3D film, and let's say you've modeled everything, you've unwrapped and rigged and animated everything, and you're worrying about your shots, and then you come across you listen to someone's feedback, and they go, and you realize that maybe some of the textures might do with a bit of work, and then but then there's just so much that you've done that well, I'd say that I've experienced moments when I I think I may have fallen into kind of like a self-denial phase and say that no, it should be fine, like I can fix it in post, and then I just and then
my entire uni experience right there.
Fix it all in post.
Post uni.
So I mean, my biggest piece of advice is storyboard it. Literally get your storyboard to the. I mean, I use if you haven't used it, use Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. Just amazing piece of software to use and learn. And for doing storyboards, digital storyboards, it's just the best. It really is absolutely the best. Do as many storyboards as it takes to the point where you're watching it and you've watched it so many times that you know exactly where you're going to be doing something, and then split your storyboard up into the scene stuff so you don't so you're not doing if a scene is going to be 3 seconds long, you may do 3.1 seconds, but you're not going to end up doing 5 seconds and then cut it down in the edit. That's just the worst thing you can do. So storyboard all the way, and feedback, and don't leave it to post.
There's another valuable there's another gem you that's in your article, and it involves I'm not gonna say it ad verbatim, but it was something along the lines of not rendering anything that doesn't, not rendering multiple instances of things that don't move.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and it might seem like a simple, of course, but really, it does take some attention when you're knee deep in the production process.
Yeah, this is the nice thing about Maya. I can't vouch for other software because I don't render in any other software. Maya has render layers, so when you're rendering, literally, if you're going to render a background, and actually this is a production point as well. The way I work in Maya, so I build all my characters in their separate projects, and then I reference them all into the main scene, and then animate that. I will never import or open and work directly from a model, because if halfway 4 scenes in, I decide I need to change a color, I work on the main model and the reference updates straight away. So reference. Whatever anyone tells you about how referencing is unstable in Maya, it's a complete lie. It's completely stable. It's absolutely brilliant. Don't also import. So one of the things in my movie is we had the pirate ship, which was this really heavy model. Don't import that as an object into your scene, because your computer's just going to die on you, and it's unnecessary to have it in there. What you can do is kind of bring it in, position it, then render that background, and then unreference the ship, for instance, and then use that as a backplate. So just use the render as a backplate, so you know where your characters are going to be, kind of thing. Unless they need to interact with the background at all, just have the props in there. Yeah, but when it comes to rendering, just render the back. So really do this in post. This is where post comes in, and split up your background as necessary. So if you want to add depth and field and that kind of thing, don't render depth of field for backgrounds. Just layer stuff out and use blurs and stuff in After Effects, whatever you're going to do, or Nuke, whatever you use. And literally, if it's not going to move, and when your scene is if it's a man on a walking stick and he's bouncing around and his walking stick doesn't move, don't just render the walking stick once and then just render the moving stuff and use whatever, use alpha channels and stuff to mask out whatever. But yeah, it saves you a fortune, and b, it saves you time.
Right.
We've got another question from Boar here. Is there a lot of projects like Customer 4.0, exploded views and that kind of stuff? Great dynamic.
Customer 4.0. Oh yes. So Customer 4.0, is it created by Dynamics? Did you say? Sorry.
He put in brackets great dynamic.
Oh, thanks.
Exploded views and that kind of stuff.
All right. So we at the company I work for, we do things called campaign launches, and they're almost like launching an advertising campaign, but in a corporate sense of the world. And we do these kind of like short videos to go along, because they used to be like 4 minutes long, but generally social media, the internet stuff, they don't really like long videos for launch stuff anymore. You've got to be quick, and you can cut it down so it goes on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. That was horribly to say this. It was done in an afternoon, on a Sunday afternoon. The whole thing was done on a Sunday afternoon. So I literally bought a bunch of microphones, set the camera up, keyframed the elements in, and then keyframed them out, and then spun the camera around them like that, and then rendered it out on GarageFarm. And it was thrown together in I think about 4 or 5 hours, because that's all we had. That's all we had left to do it.
Wow.
But it was the kind of. But on that though, the music is also a massive important part for all my films as well. I mean, the way I generally start thinking about stories and stuff like that is listen to, if you go on Extreme Music or Music Bed, two really really great sites, and just play the music through, then the idea will come to you. And the Customer 4 was kind of like that. It had this really great track. It was based on a kind of a girl talking to microphones. So yeah, that was it. When I say it took 4 hours, obviously I'd thought about it for a few days before I went into production. But yeah, the actual production was 4 hours.
Wow.
I wish I could be that quick.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Woo!
Well, that's what
User experience, though, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. When you work commercially under high pressure in a commercial environment, then you have to learn, and you have to learn fast. And this is why making short films actually helps you to do that, because you push yourself. The one thing I find that with people who come from doing an animation course or something like that, is they've spent like a year working on one film, and what they've done is they've solved their rigging problems in the first couple of months, and they don't look back at rigging for the next 8 months. By the time you meet them and they come to the studio, they can't remember how to rig. So the best thing to do would be to set yourself some really really short projects. Go on like the 11-second club or anything. Just rig yourself something or texture yourself something and experiment and find out what works. And the nice thing about doing short films, if you have more than one character and you're doing it by yourself, then you're going to rig your main character, but then you've got another 5 to do, so you're going to repeat that over and over again. And if all your characters are different, then you come across all different ways to teach yourself how to rig.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. But how do you? So you've the article also says that you started out, and you mentioned it earlier as well. Like you actually are an experienced 2D artist.
Yeah.
So what mediums do you usually like to work in?
So I used to draw. I used to just have a pen, it cost about 80p, and an A3 piece of paper, and literally just draw like that. So you'd pencil it first, obviously, like you do, and then ink over it and that kind of stuff. And then back in the day, I can't remember what it was. Simon Bisley and Glenn Fabry, the 2000 AD artists, you can Google them if you like. They kind of revolutionized comics with the painting revolution, and 2000 AD kind of went from black and white to full color, because printing obviously became. I'm not that old. This just sounds really old. And then, so I wrote Glenn Fabry. Who's my favorite artist at the time, a letter, not an email, a letter, and he phoned me up and said, "Hello," and I was like floored, and he said, "Come up to Brighton, I'll teach you how to paint." So I went up and spent a couple of days with him. He taught me how to paint with acrylics and do comics and that kind of stuff, and that kind of revolutionized everything. Learning how to texture with acrylic, about light and shade and light sources and all that kind of stuff.
Wow!
So then,
for every panel.
Yeah. I mean, I would really suggest, especially as an animator, that comic books and especially some of the newer Marvel stuff. If you look at the poses, but also if you look at sort of Simon Bisley stuff, Glenn Fabry stuff, Brian Bolland, all my favorite artists from the 80s, 90s. Just the use of light in their painting and all that kind of stuff, and also classics like John Everett Millet from the pre-Raphaelites, how to highlight something and and I use that a lot in Dr. Loon, actually, the way I lit things. It was all very simple, and just do like a rim light, but it would really suggest kind of a creepiness and stuff. So now I haven't picked up a pen apart from a Wacom pen for God knows how long, and I bought myself the Wacom Companion 2 and that was okay, if not a bit noisy.
No, yeah, but that's something I was wondering about as well. So I may have understood from the article says you've also made a lot of your films on the Wacom Cintiq, and did that mean that you were actually you were working in 3D with the Wacom?
Yeah, so it wasn't a Wacom, it wasn't a Cintiq, it was a Companion, which is the standard, the computer, which is kind of like it's just like a fancy kind of iPad, really, but it's a full operating system and that kind of thing. It's like a Xeon 2 processor or whatever it was, and it's so bloody noisy. Honestly, you turn it on, it's like it's like you're hoovering. So it was good. I mean, there's a new one, the Wacom Studio Pro or something like that, which is a portable thing. But yeah, for drawing, for digital drawing and digital painting, because I literally used my painting skills and switched that over, and I do it in Photoshop obviously now. But I do the same way. I paint the same, the same paint washes, the same highlighting, and I just do it in layers now. It's better. But then, when it came to rendering, the Companion just failed miserably. It was just too difficult, so I had to switch to a bigger. I've got kind of like a 5-year-old, quite big 3D thing that came from Box, which is like a 32 gig dual processor, 2 graphics cards, quite fancy thing. But yeah, that kind of helped, especially with the new V-Ray, for what it's called now. When you can see things GPU rendered. Yeah. That really helped with that.
I did the math.
Yeah.
I did the math for that rendering on a Companion too.
Yeah.
And one frame, 14 hours. The whole animation would have taken 11 years to do on a Companion 2.
Yeah.
By electricity bill.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is why, let's give you guys some credit here. I was using another render farm, and there were but they weren't very good, and it came to, so I decided like a great idea to give everyone fur and hair and beards and that kind of thing. And if you look at the final film, I think there's only one person with a beard, because it was so much, or 2 people. It was XGen. I don't know if anyone's seen I forgot what it's called now, Zootopia.
I've seen it.
So all the fur and all that kind of stuff was done with XGen technology, which is now in Maya. It's great for grooming, and but you try and render it, oh my god, it takes forever. So you send it to a render farm, and it was like, yay, GarageFarm, they render XGen, because it was on your advert and everything. And I sent it to you guys, and it came back, and everyone was bald again. I was like, oh, please God, help me. But then who's it, Martin? Is it Martin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he
it
was
probably
like,
was.
And I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was literally in tears, and he pops up in his little box going, let me help you, let me run the patches. And it came back, and it had hair, and honestly, it had been about 3 weeks of trying to render the first scene of Ubiquitous Claw with the 2, they're called Pardaquins, they're like little funny things on sticks with Elvis haircuts, and I hadn't seen them with hair, and then it came back, and I was just like, I could have married. I could have left my wife. Could have left my wife and married Martin.
Oh God! If you hear her bag zipping up, that's her packing.
I'll be sure to let him know that.
But it was amazing. I mean, it's not often that but it was so late at night, and it went on for like days and days and days to get this. And every time I'd be like, Martin, hi, can you run these XGen patches for me? And he did it without, and there were big scenes, there were big hefty hair scenes, so it was amazing. It really was incredible.
Yeah, I gotta say, like,
what was that?
That was living in the house with my mum.
All right.
Yes, that's very unprofessional, mother. Yes, continue. Sorry, guys.
What's up, Mrs. Rawlings? What was I gonna say? No, we've had some bouts with XGen just recently. Even it is kind of a bit, it's a bit of a handful over the network. but we're working on it. And yeah,
Well, to be
hopefully
honest with
soon
you, I think Autodesk need to pull their socks up a little bit. Really, I mean, it always ends up being the end user that struggles. But Autodesk, they keep pushing out this technology and then not fixing it. And Adobe do the same. They keep releasing all these kind of versions and stuff on their new Creative Cloud without testing them. After Effects. One of the things I actually had a massive problem with was moving from 2006 Maya 2016, which was going swimmingly. Then 2017 came out before they released any of the extensions and updates. And 2017 was an absolute nightmare. It would freeze, it would crash, it was just awful. And then they released a couple of patches, and then 2018 came out, and then for some reason the Intel graphics card on the companion didn't recognize any of the skinning on my characters.
Oh,
so I had to switch from the Wacom to the big computer. So gone were the days of sitting on the sofa doing my movie.
Wow.
Aren't Maya even charging for Arnold now, from what I hear?
They are charging, yeah. You can render. I mean, it's the same with Mental Ray. You can download it and you can render for a still frame. But when it comes to doing batch rendering or rendering an animation, you've got to pay for it. I don't think it's massively expensive. I mean, it is if you don't have any money. But you can rent it as well. And I think, but also you got things like Redshift coming out now. Arnold's okay. I found it really, really slow. It's quite simple to use. It's just really, really slow to render. Whereas V-Ray seems to have a lot of tutorials and that kind of stuff. So it's really easy to pick up. And actually moving from Mental Ray to V-Ray, I was like, why didn't I do this earlier? Mental Ray, you got these spider webs of networks and stuff like that, and you're plugging everything into everything else. And
shivers. Never again. Marco, there's a question for you from L.O. Pie.
Why is it so costly to render things out through a farm? Well, they go to the maintenance of the nodes, the power consumption they take at the data center, and well, that's pretty much it actually. And obviously the wear and tear of these nodes and the increasing. I mean, the way technology advances, like the rate at which the hardware gets better, also makes it so that we have to continually invest in more and better hardware. So I'd say that's where bulk of the costs go to, apart from maintaining the hardware.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, everyone's heard this before, but the better the computers become, the more we expect from our computers. And I think that humans' expectations are far ahead of where computers are at the moment. I mean, you look at the stuff that they do now in the X-Men films and all that kind of stuff, and it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And actually, I find that the visual effects, the fact that you might watch a movie. Which you don't expect to have visual effects in it, and you find out that there's tons of it in there. They don't even, they didn't even bother going to. I'm trying to think of something I watched recently. I think La La Land I watched recently, and there was scenes where they're in a city and that kind of thing, and they could easily have just filmed that. But then you see the making of it, and it's all CGI. And you're like, oh my god! And
no way!
Yeah, Deadpool, that whole scene on the motorway at the start. That whole gun battle, that's all CGI, and you're like, wow, man.
Wow.
But
what floored me was the Jungle Book. I mean,
oh yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, trees are another thing. Sorry, go on.
Do you guys think that the singing bit with the giant ape was a bit slammed in now unnecessarily? I forget his name. King Louis. There we go.
Yeah. King Louis. Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it's Christopher Walken, so
yeah, that was
much.
Great choice.
Yeah.
We just lost all the viewers with that controversial opinion.
I'm not sure I analysed it that much. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of a bit I watch a lot of kids' films with my kids, so sometimes they're just kind of. I think had I watched that about 5 years ago, 6 years before my son was born, I might have been a bit more in depth. But after you've watched 1,000 Power Rangers and Jungle Books and that kind of thing, you kind of you dream of watching something a bit more grown up. Which is probably why I'm not making another Ubiquitous next.
Well, this is okay. You're not making episode 3 of Ubiquitous Core.
No. I might do one. I might do one day, but the next one isn't. No, the next one isn't.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah,
you heard it here.
Yeah.
Paul's got a question for you.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, Dan. Continue.
No, that's right. No, it's fine.
Okay. He asked whether you'd seen Peter the Rabbit, as there is great fur stuff that must be heavy to render.
I haven't seen it. My wife has seen it. We got our 2-for-1 on some insurance thing we bought. So she took my kids, and she says it's one of the funniest things she's seen. But I read the making of it. I made about the making of it on in 3D World magazine, and it looks pretty amazing. So I'll have to wait for that one to come out on TV. Unfortunately, I've been around Europe a lot recently, so I kind of missed a lot of cinema stuff.
Tell us about that a little bit, about your jet setting for your work.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of sell our capability. So what we do in the we call the design studio, like a design agency. So I have to go. We have a lot of regions around the world. I think about 12. So we're in like Scandinavia, Europe, obviously US. We're in Boston, New York, Denver, and that kind of thing. And I had to go out to kind of pitch the work that we're doing, what the studio capabilities are, how we can support our company make money, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was fun, very corporate, but it was brilliant. It's a good job. I mean, it's a fun job.
Yeah, cool. I can imagine. I wanted to ask about so how often this it's PA consulting, is it? Right?
That's right. Yeah.
So how often do you guys? What version of Maya do you use?
The latest. The latest, always the latest, because there's only a few of us using it, so it's not really going to affect our. There's no like major pipeline problems if it doesn't work. So. Yeah. I generally will install it next to the old version first and just open up a couple of files or whatever. Yeah. But our productions within the studio, I mean, they're like, it'll be between 2 to 4 weeks at the longest. So it doesn't really matter. You're not going to you rarely go back and open files or reuse characters. Every single thing is a new project. So yeah, we keep up to date with our software.
Cool.
Even though it sometimes lets us down. Occasionally.
As is the way with technology.
Yeah. But how's MASH been though? I mean, we did touch on it a bit, but I've always wondered how that goes in the way of like how that stands up against maybe Cinema 4D's MoGraph or.
I don't know if it stands up against Cinema 4D. I mean, really, Cinema 4D, that's what it's for. But MASH, I think. I mean, and the fact that within 2 versions or whatever it was of being introduced, the difference between when they first put it in there to now is unbelievable. I mean, they've got dynamics in there, links to all the rest of the stuff in Maya. You can populate stuff all over the place. It's so bloody easy to use. And funnily enough, today I've just finished an animation using it as well. So I'm in a good MASH mood.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And what about so for example, your guys in post over at PA Consulting, or even you yourself, how often how important is color grading in setting the mood for any animation?
So it's important, but in the sense that, but we're not making blockbuster movies, so we're not going to, we don't make everything dark blue where you can just see a little head in the corner kind of thing.
Right.
But I mean, we mainly level out the stuff and make sure that the blacks feel black. We tend to get like 80% of the way there in our renders anyway. So we don't do that much grading in post. We've done a few productions where we've really overgraded to make it look Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it's not like we spend a lot of time on that. So we're producing things too fast, really. And when your audience is kind of about maybe 20 or 30 people, well, those are the most important 20 or 30 people you've got to impress, and they're more interested in the message that it's giving to you than it is about the color grade. So no, I wouldn't say. I mean, in Ubibticus, then it was important to keep it all bright and lovely. And I used sapphire glow a lot on Ubibticus as well, just to kind of like make everything seem lovely and summery and all that kind of stuff. So it's more important, I think, if you're doing something emotive, whereas corporate video is not necessarily about emotion; it's more about the message.
Right. But talking about message a bit more, how does I was wondering. Well, I'm not really sure how that ties up really, but how what influenced you to use your kind of poetic lyrical narration in your earlier work?
I suppose it's hard to say, really. I mean, I've always been a big fan of green eggs and ham.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Doctors. Yeah.
Particularly green eggs and ham. I mean, that's just like my favourite poem to read to my son, who's called Sam because of green eggs and ham. No, that's not true.
Oh,
his name is Sam.
I am so good at
it. I don't want it to end up like Christopher Robin, who's going, "I was named after Dr. Seuss book." I've always just found it better. I mean, I did a comic book when I was younger called Happy Ending, which was about it sounds really wrong, but it was about a kind of a tormented Phantom of the Opera type, but it was a really, really evil version of the Phantom of the Opera, and that whole thing was done in poetry. And I just find it a lot. I don't know. I just find it flows a lot better, and it's quite it's interesting. You push yourself, like, you know what the story is, but I've never been a particularly great writer as far as writing normal, sentences and that kind of thing. So maybe I just hid behind poetry to get my story out. My God, I've exposed myself.
No, but it's really. I mean,
there's no going back now.
Yeah. Also, I always talk in rhyme. It's just I've stopped for today.
I can believe that.
Yeah. No, because it's cool how it it just sounds so effortless, like the rhyming comes so fluidly, I guess, and it doesn't. It's hard to imagine that, like, it almost feels like you grabbed the mic and you spoke over your cuts with like the perfect,
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But yeah, I mean, it's not. It does take a bit of work. I wouldn't say that I sit there and it comes out. I mean, normally normally it's the music kind of comes first. That's kind of like the one that's churning around. It's fun as soon as I find a good song and a match to the story or the idea, then the words kind of tend to come out afterwards. It's almost like writing a song, I guess. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Good one. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the comments.
That's all right.
But so with all of the with the work that you've made so far, like your personal body of work, what are your plans for the future? And do you have any plans to maybe create like some sort of hub where all of these works are available and where people can support you, can support these works?
Absolutely. I mean, so the dream in the world is to sort of get some funding to make a series. Ubiquitous Claw. I mean, I've written about 7 more, or the early stages of them, so that would be absolutely fantastic. I've got my pitch Bible ready, so I'm going to start sending that around. Obviously, getting recognition from film festivals is great. I've always dreamt of having my own animation studio. Basically, sitting around one day just making Ubiquitous for a living would be great. I love the work that I do at the moment. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, the thing about hubs and all that kind of stuff is I hadn't even thought about it. So yeah, good idea. I'll take that one. Yeah. Maybe set myself up a new website, because my website's about 100 years old now. So.
Sorry, I won't.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I
was pretty rubbish at social media until Danny made me do it. Let's face it.
So it was Danny, was it?
Yeah.
I'm still up for helping you with that if you need it. Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because, a full-time, I mean, it's literally, I leave the house at whatever, 6:45, don't get back till 7. You've got to see the kids, read them a book and all that kind of thing. And by the time you've eaten and you're in front of the computer to do your work, it's kind of like 8 or 9 o'clock. So, you've got to work till 1, 2, and if you get involved in 3 in the morning, you need to get up 3 hours later. So you've got to be super dedicated, and it takes a toll on you. So, it's physically, I mean, I mentioned this before, it becomes hard work. And sometimes you've got to say, look, I can't stay up late another night because I'll just be rubbish the next day. Yeah. To try stopping yourself from doing that when you're on a roll, or you've got a problem with Next-Gen or something like that. Is, And I didn't realise how much it was affecting me. But I've got a chapped nerve in my neck, and I've got bad back, and it sounds like an old man thing, but it's just literally from overworking. So when people say you take a break and all that kind of stuff, I really should. I didn't, but I really should, and listen to me when I say, you can take about sort of 10-15 years of doing that, but after a while it really does kind of get to you. So look after yourself, folks. It's a tough job. Don't expect it to be easy. And also, I mean, people dream of kind of like working on big Hollywood movies and animating stuff like that, which is cool. And don't get me wrong, if you do it, get the chance to do it, then it's lovely. But you may be working on like 12 seconds in a month, and your career probably be great, and you'll probably love it, and you may love it, and you may have a great team. But don't ignore commercial stuff, television stuff, the fast moving stuff where you really get to experiment and try new things. Yeah,
television now especially is sounds really appealing, but then the pressure. I mean, imagine having to put together episode after episode.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, but when you got to pay your rent and you got to pay your bills and you got to feed yourself and that kind of thing, pressure's on no matter what you do for a living. So you might as well do something you enjoy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Bora asks, how do you charge for projects, and can you suggest how like a good way to get customers? So I'm assuming, are you a freelancer, Bora, or I'm assuming it's for freelance. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing to do is get yourself as much of a showreel together as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Showreels are quite tricky. I mean, I see a lot of showreels. I don't like. I like it when people get their. So if someone's come to me with a character showreel, I like to see, that they can do walk cycles, that they can do acting, that they can do this. I don't necessarily need funky music and lots of edits. Just put a big chunk in there, big chunk in there, big chunk in there, and just let me know what you want. Clients, on the other hand, sometimes they do like a bit of funky stuff. The higher, the more into the kind of corporate, say, I don't know, say banking, for example, or some of those clients, they pay a lot of money, And what they're asking for is sometimes is the animation will become simple, but what they're looking for is like someone to tell their story and translate this really complicated. Say maybe an insurance company will come to you and say, look, I want to do a 3-minute animation about insurance, and here's a really, really dull script. Can you make it better? So I practice doing that and switching it around, and look online for way if you're not a story writer, look for story arcs and all that kind of stuff, and look for the kind of once upon a time storytelling stuff there is out there. But as far as advertising goes, then what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just getting myself that Wix build your own website thing, redirecting it. It's so easy to use that you don't have to waste time, using Muse or Dreamweaver, all that kind of stuff. Right. Use what's out there. I mean, if you've got a Creative Cloud, then you've got the Spark stuff that comes with it, where you can build your own stuff. No one really cares where your work is. Put it on the showreel there, and then just go through LinkedIn, look for creative directors, look for lead animators, and send them an email saying, "Hi, here's my showreel. It'd be great if you could have a look. Happy to help you," or whatever. Yeah. So just be bold. Just send an email. What's the worst can happen? If you get a nice creative director like me, I'll always respond and put you on the books. Some of them are a bit, their egos are through the door, but and you never know. Even if you send 10 emails and you only get one, and he's going to pay you, then that's fine. As far as rates go, then set your rate. It's up to you. Depending on your experience, we go from like $250 a day up to $550 a day. So if you're really, really good, normally when you start getting up to like $550 a day, people are really fast, so that you're not actually paying that much more money. For a 3-minute corporate animation that you might have to take 2 weeks. It can range from about $2,000 to $7,000. But then if your client's really massive and there's like 2 or 3 of you working on there, it can be more than that. So the thing to do is set your day rate at a realistic expectation on your experience. So if you're new to the market, then go for the kind of 250, 300 mark, and then if you're freelancing, that is. If not, go to an agency, a recruitment creative agency. So there's a lot around. We use Aquent in London, which are a really great one. And we need animators all the time. So if you go on their books, they'll probably send you our way at some point. And they'll recommend a day rate for you, and that's always a good target. And the most important thing is don't do anything for free. Don't ever do anything for free. If someone says to you, "Can you do me 3 minutes so I can get it approved and then I'll pay you?" Just say no.
3 minutes.
Yeah, or anything. Just don't.
Sounds like little bits and lot.
Just say
yeah.
I feel terribly sorry for sort of young artists and animators who are those people going, can you do me a logo? It'll be great exposure, or whatever. You can, if it's great exposure for you, I can do my own logo and put it on my own website nowadays and put it on my own social media. That's exposure. Having it on your unknown brand, is not exposure. So don't ever do anything for free.
Yeah, especially today with the kind of the kind of technology we live with.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no reason. There's no such thing as like somebody
free exposure.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrible the way that you don't go to a dentist and say, "Can you fix my tooth?" and it'll be great exposure when I walk around with my mouth open. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, totally.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. So it came to me rapidly, so it's probably a better one out there.
Inspiration for a new story. The Tooth Doctor.
But also, I mean, the learnings of Dr. Loon. I mean, I'd never done an animated movie before, and I made it in my free time, and it ended up being shown on Sky. It was commended by the BBC. Really? It was shown on Shortcutters, and I got jobs out of it. So I've kind of made my own portfolio there. So this is why short films are really great to do, because they're a real showcase. And also, I love when people come to our studio, and rather than sending me a showreel, they send me a short film, because it really shows the personality of someone in it, and you can see that they've actually sat there and done it themselves, and who they are and what they think, rather than a bunch of sort of mini cuts of corporate stuff. So but I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. So let us know, Bor, if that answers your questions. He says, I'm a freelance designer, and he mostly works in interior and product design visualization. But he's always been fascinated with animating, which is, to me, I think, like, I'd say, at least from what I've seen on the farm, product design and like hard surface stuff is like there's a lot of work that seems to be going around for renders like that. So
yeah, so PA Consulting, we have a technology center up in Cambridge, and we do some incredible stuff. We created the Evian bottle. We created the auto injector. We created a bunch of medical stuff that you will see in hospitals every day now. I mean, there's aura packaging. There's loads of stuff that we've worked on, and actually, funnily enough, just did one last week. We do a lot of product modeling, but we've got the CAD guys up in Cambridge, and they'll send down their CAD models, which we kind of rebuild for entertainment purposes in Maya, render it out and make it look a bit better. So yeah, again, you should drop me an email and I'll see if I can get some work.
Cool. So yeah, you're welcome.
Are you going to pay for the flights as well?
Yeah, but I've also been curious as to how turnarounds for corporate projects are dealt with. I mean, how do you come to agreements in regards to how many turnarounds you can make, or is that even a thing? Like, is that how you?
Well, it's tricky. It is one of the hardest things. Someone will come to you and say, "I've got to, do a certain bid or whatever," or a client's come to me or whatever, and the deadline is 3 weeks. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you 6 months ago when I found out. Can you help me? And my wife's a freelancer as well, and she gets the same thing a lot. She gets these people saying, "Oh, it'll only need 4 or 5 minutes of animation in the next couple of weeks. Is that all right?" I mean, only 4 or 5 minutes. So the first thing to do, and this is one of the most important thing that I can bang on about, is pre-production. So if someone sends you a script through from a corporate, for instance, or anybody actually, storyboard it first, write down the number of characters you're going to be animating and the number of scenes that you're going to be animating, and then don't say, "Oh, I can do that for 50 quid or whatever." In your mind, even before you quote, literally ask them to see the script first, see when their deadline is, and see, because so if someone says to you, or it's a story about a cloud which floats through the air and nothing else happens but a floaty cloud, then that's great because you're only animating a cloud. So whatever. If someone says to you, it's 5 people in a room, and then they leave the house and they jump in a car, which always happens, and the dog comes with them, they go to the doctor, and the doctor brings in his nurse assistant, then you've got like 10 people already that you've got to design, unless they've got a designer, and secondly, you've got to animate all these people, plus you've got to do a dog, plus a car, plus a house, plus all this kind of stuff. So list out your sets, list out your characters, list out when the deadline is, and then say to them, "Can I cut any of this stuff out?" Do a storyboard and say, "Listen, we need this is," and then judge. Do it as a day rate. So say you decide you're going to be at £250 a day, and you know that you can do sort of 30 seconds of animation a day on one character, and that's fine. But if you've got 5 characters in there, then that's 5 days. So then you can start quoting from there, really. But it's really important to spend that time up front, literally on paper, before you even open After Effects or Maya or Cinema 4D, whatever you do.
Yeah, solid advice. But what about revisions? How do you go about dealing with those?
So
I'm
in Storyboard Pro, probably, masses. I mean, I would be drawing my stuff in Storyboard Pro. A lot of people don't understand hand-drawn storyboards, so sometimes it's worth doing a couple of still frames against the storyboard and say, "This is how it's going to look. This is how it's going to look now." But honestly, I will storyboard to the point when they're, a lot of the and this is quite a compliment to me, but sometimes my storyboards are so, detailed that people are like, "Oh, thanks very much. That's all I need." You're like, "Oh, okay," but I haven't started the animation yet. They're like, "Okay, fine." Oh, right. Okay, sorry. But really get the storyboard right. And then when it comes back for revisions, the general rule is 2 sets of revisions, included in the cost anyway. So just say, always bill that extra day or whatever for revisions. And then if they suddenly say, well, look, I've got the script's change, we need to add another scene, or we need to add a character or whatever, then that's what's called a scope change. So that's you're allowed at that point to requote, and you have to say to them that I can't do it unless I requote. And it's up to you. Right. Earlier on in your career, you can always say, well, if you're the new client, give me 50% up front or whatever it is. That sometimes doesn't work. The best thing to do is put a bit of money aside so you can cover yourself, because the hardest thing about freelancing is that you'll be the money's coming at the end, and you've got to wait for that money to come in before you can eat. So
Tomaz would like to know something.
Yep.
He said, the deadline, very important word. How do you find fulfilling the deadline when working with a render farm?
Well, GarageFarm.NET are actually quite good like that. I mean, I've not missed a deadline because of GarageFarm.NET. I literally haven't done it. I mean, that Customer 4 one is a prime example. Actually, I did another one, which was the Zoetrope, the spinning thing, which took even longer to do and cost more money because I paid for the faster render thing. Unfortunately, we had quite a big budget on that, but I can't actually think of a single problem I have had with GarageFarm.NET at all, really.
Wow.
It automatically downloads as well, which I find really helpful. So you can literally stick it on, go away, have something to eat, whatever, and it's sort of ready and downloaded into your folder, ready to composite. So yeah, it's brilliant. And also some other render farms that I've used, when you install it and it gives you your shelf button in Maya, and you hit it and it gives you all kinds of like errors, and this file is meant to be in this folder and that kind of thing. But whereas GarageFarm in Maya recognizes the folder structure in Maya, so you're not moving all this stuff around. If I saved a scene on my desktop by mistake or whatever, it would still know where all the files are, which is just a lifesaver, because they used to kill me with certain other render farms.
Oh, glad to hear it. So another thing I wanted to know was how you manage to. So you're obviously a very busy man, and between work and family, you've got the project you're working on at the moment.
Yeah.
The personal project. Yeah. So, where do you come up with all of these? Like, where do you find opportunities for storytelling? Like, where do you find all these stories? And how would you advise somebody who's looking to like be a creator such as yourself, and then also but who's also kind of stuck in the daily, like has his own daily commitments he has to do? Like, well, how would is it a perspective thing, or how would you?
I mean, I started off storytelling, from right at the beginning when I was drawing comics, right from when I remember, and I kind of grew up in that kind of environment anyway. One of the things. Sorry, my son just walked in. It's like that BBC thing, when he comes sliding across the floor. So one of the things that I always did. So originally I started off doing these like fantastical characters, and then kind of like, as I grew up a bit more, I started writing these really deep, personal, poetry, I guess, and then I started translating that into stories. Then, actually, I think Ubiquitous Claw probably is quite a personal story. It's me kind of like going about my day trying to be super happy in the face of all the weird, what I now consider to be a very weird and wonderful world that I live in, with children, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's nothing wrong with writing personal stories, and going to the film festivals recently. It's great to see people writing the personal stories. There were a lot of films in there which were about letters from their grandfather and that kind of thing, which I suppose is okay, but why not write stories that you know about and just find a unique angle and just think, so this is my normal life, and I wonder what would happen if, you know, something broke that routine or something really bizarre happened or whatever, or imagine, you know, I don't know, the kind of I don't know, it's just a different way of looking at it, I suppose. I mean, I spend an hour on the train to London every day and then an hour on the train back. So after I've looked at my emails and that kind of thing, I kind of gulp out the window for a bit because I've given up looking at my iPhone because it just makes my eyes sore. So then, I just start thinking about lots of different ideas, and to be honest with you, I never really stopped thinking. So just get a book, write everything in it. I use Evernote on my just to write all kinds of nonsense down. I've got all kinds of weird ideas that have started. I actually wrote a children's book on the train the other day, which I'm determined to illustrate, but yeah, that's another pipe dream. So there's plenty of work to be getting on with anyway. But it's just finding a story, and you know, and just only do it if you want to do it. I mean, just, you know, if you're going to make a CG, if you're going to make a short film in your free time, remember you could be there for like 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, you know, whatever, and you got to dedicate your life to it. So make it something you want to do. So generally, being personal in your storytelling is probably easier.
For sure.
How long did your first animation take to make? Because obviously, with your busy life, it really elongates how long these take.
So the learnings of my very first one, the learnings of Dr. Loon, I think took about 2 years or something like that. I mean, I had a job, and it actually took 6 months to render. I'll be honest with you, because my computer was so rubbish, and it was done all on my own, and that was with Maya software render, and it was only 1024/576, so it wasn't even HD. Oh. And then the Death of the Comedian was a bit quicker. I think it's about a year. But that was quite slow because Ncloth, I used Ncloth on there. That was my kind of foray into the world of simulation. And then Ubiquitous took about, you know, the first one took about, I can't remember now, 2 or 3 years. And then this one's taken, I mean, I started it the year after my son was born. He's now 6. So, but I didn't actually take, but if I put all the hours together, it's probably about 6 months worth of work. It's just you spread that out. You spread that out over 4 hours in the evening, over however long.
Many late nights.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know, then you finish it one day, and you're like, it's weird because you've been working on something that long. You're like, you're like, is that it? You're like, you don't know. You're like, what do you do with yourself? So,
because it becomes a part of your routine, and one day it's just not. And
it's absolutely, you know, it's strange.
Okay. So I've got a couple more questions.
Okay.
But let me have a quick look at the comments. Yeah, you can wait for the money for months. Says Vital. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty mean. I actually think it's bad clients are just the worst, and and it really, really affects the industry. It really does, and freelancing especially.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask was, you know, these days, like there's a lot of additional software. Like there are a lot of plugins and add-ons that you can get for any kind of software, really, that make life so much easier. Like, but then it gets to a point where you've got all these add-ons, and some of them are free even. But let's say you had the money and you build a career like relying on these add-ons.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Because there's a lot of, like, let's say there are like forest generators. There are even house generators where you can control like measurements with high precision.
Yeah.
There's a generator for everything these days, and I wonder. And there's people too. Yeah, like there's and then there's also this mentality that seems to be prevalent these days that kind of sets you up to approach things from a more what's the word, like a managerial perspective. so like it's not as much. What seems to be the sentiment is it's not as much about being the skilled craftsman anymore. It's more of finding your being able to make use of the resources that are there to create whatever it is you know, to get your vision across. But then like there's also the possible loss of like all those hours that you, for example, have spent like creating things from scratch and texturing all those cups. Like, what about that?
I think it was like one.
No, I know. Yeah, but like proverbially, I guess, you know, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, so if you're really into plugins and that kind of thing, then you know, visual effects is the way to go in a career. I use masses of plugins. There's just, you know, the nice thing about Maya is that, you know, obviously you got Python and Mel embedded, and you know, you got Creative Crash and things like that. But I mean, they're a lifesaver. I've never been. I mean, I tried my hand at rigging, and you know, I can rig, but I just didn't excite me. So you know, when you get things like Rapid Rig and Tween Machine, I mean, sorry, what was it called? Setup Machine, especially the new one. I mean, they're brilliant. They're a lifesaver, and you're not. No one really cares how it's rigged. The thing is, automatic character generators. I mean, Autodesk have got that thing out now, and things like Poser and that kind of stuff. I mean, you can see that they're Poser, and you can see that they're automatically generated. Whereas Ubiquitous, you can tell that he's designed characters. So character design is a skill in itself. So don't, you know, if you're an animator and all you want to do is be an animator, then using, you know, those rigs that you can download is absolutely fine. But don't expect to get a job as a character designer. And you can get a job as a character designer, so that's fine. And you know, as far as city building and stuff like that, it all depends really. If your city is not that important in your film, so it's just a background element, then why not use something which generates it anyway? If you're, you know, if your character, you know, needs to walk into something which is impressive, like the Chrysler Building, or have its own personality, then yes, you will build it by yourself. But then don't waste your time, because making a short film, you want to cut corners, because otherwise you'll be doing it for the rest of your life. Trees will always be procedurally generated, wildlife and all that kind of stuff. And God, I wish they'd make it even easier than it is now, because a tree is a tree, right? It looks like a tree, it acts like a tree, and grass the same. Just, I don't know why they make it so complicated. Just press a button to make stuff grass, and then you can fiddle with a couple of things. Just make life easier for people. So, I mean. The bigger packages like Max and Houdini and Maya, they love making things a little bit more complicated than should be. But yeah, I mean, go for plugins all the way, and anything to speed up your life. Just try them out. Little shortcuts. The thing about using a computer, right, is that you don't want to do the same thing twice, because it's a waste of time. You know, I mean, if you're making a movie, then what's important is that your characters are important. They look nice. Your acting is important, so you're going to have to do that anyway. The scenery is styled, so if you want it to be important and part of your world, then you're going to build all the stuff itself. But if it's grass, then unless you want the grass to be the hero or particularly stand out, then grass is grass and water is water. So you know, go for it. But then again, you might find a plugin which is going to, you know, and you know. I think, you know, all the clouds and stuff like that in Ubiquitous Episode 2, my intention was to do like volumetric stuff and make it all wonderful and that kind of thing. But in the end, I couldn't render it. I couldn't be bothered. I just was like, oh, sod it, let's just do it in After Effects. So there we go.
It's always been like the unreachable dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, volumetrics, like a real 3D God ray, but then
what's the point? I mean, you just do it in post. That is something that could be done in post, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Wolf of Wall Street, and you look at all the VFX and CGI that went into that, you know, half of that film is CGI built, and you think, well, you know, it's incredible. I mean, all the boat scenes, all the building scenes, it's it's all CGI. They think, well, why didn't they just film it in a building? But in the end, it was all done in Nuke. So I mean, I can't use Nuke, but I've seen some amazing stuff done in it, and it's obviously quicker than going out there filming it. You've got one guy in a studio, who can fake it. But it all depends. All depends on your end goal, really. And to be honest, if the story's good, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So if there aren't any questions, I guess we can end this maybe with some last words of advice for any aspiring storytellers who happen to use CG as a medium, 3D.
I think I said this in my interview, and I think I'll say it again. Is don't do nothing. when you're in the lowest point and you think, oh my goodness, I've got 9 more characters to do. How that I've got to go to work, or I've got to do my job, or whatever it is. Yeah. The thing is, there's always something to be done. Just doing something little, and this is kind of they call this agile way of working. Get the little things through the door, and that just feels like you're accomplishing something, and then take on the big stuff. Because there's always something to do, and there's and you'll tackle the big stuff when you're ready. But that's it, really. And always enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy it, then there's no bloody point.
Life's too short.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's hard work, so don't expect it to be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Anyway, and use GarageFarm.NET. I mean, they're amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. And give us a. Well, now that you mention it, so we'd like to thank everyone that's come here, and we've actually prepared a little surprise for any of you that are considering using a render farm and have some animations to have some stories to tell, really. Maybe an hour until maybe today's Thursday, until the end of Friday. You can drop us a message here on Facebook with your name after with your name and the phrase "adventures galore" after. And so it would be like Marco's Adventures Galore. Yeah. Do that, and you're in for a treat. So that's our little gesture of thanks for joining us on this broadcast. And
sorry, Marco. Before we go, Thomas has got a fun little question for you, Dan.
Okay.
Do you happen to fall asleep at the keyboard?
Oh man.
Yes, I've done that before. Yeah, especially when I try and drink and work at the same time.
Yeah.
No, I have done. I've done. When my son was born, I was finishing the first Ubibticus, and it was very, very, very tiring. And if anyone's got children, they'll know. You have no sleep ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that. That's kind of why I moved to the companion, because I could sit on the sofa relaxing. I say relaxing, but
Yeah.
Trying to relax.
Yeah.
The constant really cool, search for relaxing.
Just being able to, and you can draw on it, yeah, like a.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's amazing. No, because I had no idea you could. It was strong enough to handle like Maya or So that's wow. That's.
Yeah, I mean it's not good enough for rendering, but it's definitely good enough for ZBrush, ZBrush, whatever you want to call it, Maya. As long as you're not using your Viewpoint 2.0 with every sort of high setting in there, then you're fine.
Cool. Looks like we got like a new Maxim just joined the stream, so it's a bit late in the game, but welcome anyway. And your question is how to fight procrastination when the end is so far away. That's.
Please tell me this.
Well, I mean, so like I said, do something. It's a hard thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty bad, I have to say, at actually starting. So you just got to just do something. Or you really got to do something. And you know, sometimes when you start, especially when you start CGI, and you got like a grey model that's not textured or whatever it is, it's really really depressing. So try and get to a point as rapidly as possible. Even if it's not rigged yet, but you got like a textured character or something you can just render and go, oh yeah, you know what, I can see it, I can see what that's going to look like, that kind of thing. And again, get your storyboard done, get the music on it, get the soundtrack on it, play it over and over again, get some opinions about it, and that's really important. The thing, there isn't an easy answer to it apart from you just sit in front of your computer, make yourself comfortable, and just do something little. You know, give yourself 15 minutes, which turns into an hour, which turns into 2 hours, and before you know it, you'll finish the movie. Not before you know it, that's a lie. It takes forever, but it's a good start.
Yeah. So there you go, Maxine. Okay, but I think this was a really good conversation.
Yeah, and, thanks, guys.
I'd hate to keep you any longer. So thanks for joining us, Dan and Danny.
Thank you both.
And thank you for joining us as well, Marco.
Yeah, a pleasure.
Excellent. Okay. Is that it?
Okay. Yeah. So there's so again, guys, for you who've seen the stream, send us that message on our inbox before the end of Friday. Your name, and then adventures galore after, for a little treat.
Cool.
Okay. So thanks again, guys, and
can I just say, you honestly, GarageFarm guys, you've been you're most friendliest people I think I've ever met in my entire life. I'm also anyone that's listening in. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me, and I'm a very nice chap. So, any advice or whatever afterwards, feel free to drop me a message or whatever.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah, that's a note. You guys, viewers, can find the link to Dan Masterton's LinkedIn on the post that I have put in the comments, the case study into him, where you can find more information about him as well.
Yeah.
That can all be found at the bottom of the post, the details. All right. Yeah.
Great.
Very nice. Okay,
cool.
So with that, I guess we can call it in. So again, Thanks, guys, and happy rendering.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy rendering.
Bye.
Goodbye.
See you guys. Bye.
See you, mate. That was good. That was